1, 2, 3.
Let's do a little
4. 1,
Element 115, essentially non-existent.
3, 4.
And he told police he was able to time travel because aliens filled his body with, you guessed it, alcohol.
See?
Mic check. 1, 2,
We're
1, 2.
we're in it.
Yeah, I didn't prepare any material for an opening today, so I'd like to absolve myself of any wrongdoings here from the beginning.
Wow,
Maybe-
right off the get go.
He's already trying to short us here.
What is the get go? You know,
Yeah, where does that come from?
That's
it
one
always
of those.
sounds like a gecko, like the lizard.
Yeah.
And, like, is this how Geico was born?
Probably.
It could be.
Yeah.
Somebody was
saving
just
you
sick
money
of not
from the
saving
Geico.
15% in 15 minutes, so they started Geico.
You think
that's
they
one of
started
those
with the
phrases.
savings? Actually,
I think so.
started-
Yeah, I think they had the savings plan figured out
They
first.
said
and
we're
then,
going to give you 15% off.
Yep. And then they were like, "Oh,
let's
Geico sounds like Geico.
retroactively create an insurance company.
exactly, exactly."
That
They were
makes
like,
When they should have created one from the get-go.
Wow. Well, that's it. That's today's episode. Thank
"Good
you
night,
so
guys.
much.
It was great talking to you all."
We've been the Beasty Boys, no relation, and it's not going to get much better than that. That's right. We are in it.
Yeah.
I am John.
Jarvis.
Mike,
Hey, guys.
this is my buddy Mitch.
Hey, how you doing?
I feel like John and I are like very like enthusiastic when we do our interview or our intros, and then it gets to Mike, and there's always that like 2-beat pause, and then just Mike.
You know what the problem with these two guys, Jarvis, if we can just pretend like we're talking amongst ourselves.
Yeah,
They're
but
almost-
sidebar.
They're almost too polite, you know?
Yeah.
It comes up in the beginning when we clap, when we're syncing sound. They don't want to like step on each other. Like they're very polite, and they don't want to say hi while the other one is saying hi. Now, even you noticed Mike said hi, and he said, "Here's my friend Mitch." Even introduced the young fellow. I mean, honestly, they're good guys. Now we'll bring them back in, and we can talk shit about them while they're here. But between me and you, Jarvis, they are good guys. They're good guys, and I
they
like
really are. They really are. And thank God they're not here
and
right
they
now.
tried to say that chivalry is dead.
them. Who says that? No one tries to
I
say
don't know.
that.
I
never
hear
tried
people
to say
repeat
that.
that.
People do repeat that.
The guy that killed chivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The one guy that's like, chivalry's dead. And they're like, no, it's not. Would you shut up already?
What are you
the
talking
shovel.
about?
Chivalry? Does anyone have any news or current events they want to talk about before we get started on our topic?
I just want to bring up props to NASA for getting the Perseverance on Mars.
Hell yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
wicked
that was
exciting.
pretty cool.
It is
Yeah, I love that there's a drone on board so they can like
didn't know
scout out. Yeah, it can scout out like future locations. So apparently I was reading the drone itself uses the base to charge. Like it's on the underside of the rover and it charges under there. And then but once it disconnects, I think in 2 weeks they said, it'll be on its own power. It'll just use solar energy to kind of get around. And it will all it's gonna do is just scout out ahead to see like if it's travelable terrain ahead.
Oh,
So like
okay, yeah.
the rover
Oh,
doesn't
okay,
get
that's
stuck
like
or
a
anything.
scouter.
Yeah. And then the rover will go, and the rover has like a drill that will drill out soil, and then it's going to set it aside, and they're going to send another rocket later with another rover to grab the samples and bring them back to Earth. So that's pretty badass.
Now, are all of these robots gonna like?
Connect together and form an ultimate. Oh, sorry.
I don't think
No,
that's what he meant by that, Mike.
like a Megazord on Mars? That'd be dope.
I meant
dude.
like
Yo, you meant
sex.
connect
Yeah.
together.
They should connect.
So when they come back,
They
to
gotta
get the
reproduce,
samples,
so they better
There's a
reconnect.
bunch of little baby robots waiting for them.
just like a litter of them.
A litter of rovers.
Yeah, a litter.
Yeah, we
That
get
would be
there. They've just
amazing.
taken over the entire planet at this point.
I want a rover puppy. That'd be way cuter and more wholesome than one of those Boston Dynamic dogs, which I also
Yeah.
want.
It would also
I feel
live
like-
longer than a real dog,
Yeah,
which is
dude,
cool.
One of those things. Did you see
The
that
Boston
guy?
Dynamic, I hate
Yeah,
those. They
it's like
seem-
$40,000. And the dude from Mythbusters, the friendly one, built a rickshaw.
Adam Savage. Yeah.
Yeah, he built
That's
a
cool.
rickshaw, and you can get one of those robot dogs to pull you in a little cart. Come on,
That's
that'd be
sick.
great.
Wow. That's cool.
I actually drove by Boston Dynamics the other day. Their building looks like an evil lair. Like it looks like
'Cause
something.
it is.
Yeah, it really is. But it looks like what you would think Cyberdyne would look like.
Oh,
Like
okay,
just
yeah.
all windows and like really sharp angles and like a lot of like weird like
How
atmospheric
come they
lighting and
just
stuff.
can never help themselves with this stuff?
Yeah,
You
I don't know.
like they always got a name that, like we were talking the other day about that company that named themselves like Palantir after
Yeah.
after the
Lord of the
orb
Rings.
of Sauron from Lord of the Rings, and now this place, literally this place that's gonna make the robots that are eventually going to take over humanity and make us go extinct. They designed their building like an evil lair.
Yeah.
And then there's that Chinese company that calls themselves Skynet. Like, how come they just cannot help themselves?
That's just
what I
straight
wanna
up
know.
distasteful. Calling your company that is distasteful.
Definitely,
I'm,
bro.
Yeah, and it's China. We should be a little worried. They might try to create an AI to wipe us all out. Who knows?
It could be there already.
Yeah, we don't know.
Just waiting
But
to get
anyways.
out, like that sexy one from that movie with Poe Dameron in it.
Oh,
Yes.
Ex Machina.
There
Ex
you
Machina. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great
Or
film.
like Sex Machina, right? Mars, baby. Mars.
Would
Get them
you-
robots doing it.
Would you guys, if you were offered like the ability to get like a cybernetic implant to like enhance your brain power, would you guys do it?
I would consider
Yes.
it.
Yeah, I think I would definitely do it. Like
Nah.
without question, I would be first in line.
Oh yeah, sign me up. Give me
Yeah.
the virus. Give me the implant. I mean, I meant the vaccine. I said give me the I said give me the virus. I
You
meant
heard it here
vaccine.
first, folks. Give them
Well, I
the
mean,
virus.
technically, the vaccine is the virus, right? Don't
True.
they give you the
Very
dead virus?
true. It is giving you the virus. Yeah. that's
So you weren't far off.
Or did you mean a computer virus because you're, getting cybernetic implants?
Yeah, give me the cybernetics first, then just give
Yeah.
me like some virus.
Yeah, give John some malware with his cybernetic implant.
Some like late 90s, early 2000s malware. You know, the
Yeah.
height of malware.
So it's just
One of my
your
main
heads-up display
problems-
and your eyesight is just pop-ups forever, just a zillion pop-ups. You can't see anything. You're not be able to ride your bike anymore because you won't be able to see anything
Can't
because
see
it'll be
outside the
pop-ups.
glasses. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, can we?
Any of you guys have the first cell phone you ever got?
No, mine's long gone.
That's my main issue with the implant.
Oh, with it being old tech, yeah.
Because imagine if you were stuck with the
Yeah.
iPhone 1 right now because it was inside your skull.
Yeah, or an Apple
right.
IIe.
You know, just so it's not so much that device; it's the installation and repair of that.
Yeah,
device.
yeah,
We're
yeah.
missing so much more technology that would allow a very easy implantation that was safe, that your skin's not going to reject. And
Yep,
like, if
that
you
need-
needed if you needed it swapped out, that can't be something you have to wait a week and a half or 2 weeks.
And it's
or
probably
however
not cheap either.
long. Oh, no.
Yeah, there's a lot of drawbacks
Once you
to
could
it.
do that at a Walgreens, I probably
Yeah.
am.
Just get into a little booth at Walgreens and it unzips your head. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
It's like-
think that's gonna be in our lifetime, though.
No, it's
it
like
won't be
that.
Walgreens then.
It's like when you
It'll
sit
be
down for the
Amazon.
blood pressure machine, you get blood pressure and you get your chip implanted,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
implants.
It holds your bicep firm to get your temperature, but also, to get your blood pressure, but also so that you can't get away
Yeah, exactly.
from the saw that is going to open up your brain and implant this updated thing.
Oh, and we didn't tell you no anesthesia either. They just
Right.
they just plop it right
Too
in your brain. Healthcare won't
You don't
cover it
need
in
it
the
in your
United
brain,
States.
though, right?
Wouldn't
Isn't
you?
that the
though?
one where they do brain surgery and they have like the open skull and you can see the brain and the guy's awake? Like,
Is that a real thing, or is that just like from,
Yeah,
from a movie?
Yeah, they do that.
there's no,
So,
there's no
Pain receptors in your brain?
Yeah, there you go.
but they also do it so
Really?
that like if they hit something, like they want to make sure you don't
Oh, they wanna make
lose
sure
your
you don't
cognitive
puke.
abilities and stuff.
Yeah,
if
fair
you like,
enough.
if they
Oh, so your eyes start rolling in the back of your head. They're like, well, we hit the wrong thing.
yeah,
Start speaking French.
Better close them up.
yeah. What if I poke this little piece of gray matter? Let's see what happens. There was
French.
what did I see? Someone in Boston was having brain surgery maybe a year ago, and they actually had him just sit there and play violin because they didn't want her to lose. She was a professional musician at like
This
Berkeley
is
or
a
something.
real thing? That's real?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can look if you Google it, you'll see she's like sitting there, her brain's open. This doctor's like back here looking at it, camera's in front of her, and she's just sitting there like playing a violin, and they're
That's
like
the worst concert
poking her brain.
ever.
Yeah.
What a terrible, terrible show. Fuck.
So what would your task be then? Like Mitch, this woman, she's getting the surgery and she's playing violin because that's what she's proficient in. Like what are the doctors asking you to do during your surgery?
Oof. That's a loaded question.
Like for me, it would be like riding my bike. That's not going to work.
Yeah. You can't get brain
They're
surgery.
going to put me
riding
on a
bike.
trainer? No, that's boring. I'm not going to sit on a fucking trainer and spin my legs.
Well, I feel like that'd be very hard to do no matter what apparatus they have you on, because you're going to inherently be bouncing all around, right?
Yeah,
So,
good point.
I mean, the last thing I would want while having brain surgery is to not be in like some sort of stable position and be moving all around. So while they're digging around in my brain, that just sounds dangerous.
But I feel like it would be like more of like your like more intricate brain working. Like playing music is such like it's a muscle you need to train over your life. Like is riding your bike like have the same?
Yeah, I train. Okay, I train.
No,
I take it very seriously.
No, what I'm saying is like is it? I wonder if it's
No,
like
I know
a
what you mean. It's not
physical
necessarily-
thing or like.
Right, like a high motor function or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not scientists. We don't really know what.
Yeah, we're just a bunch of boys in a man's world.
Any other news before we get into it?
I don't know, but I'd like to commend Mitch on dodging that question.
Oh, thank you, buddy.
Yeah, he didn't answer that question. Now that I think
Crypto news. I sent you guys something. Did you look at it?
I did. Do you want to tell us about it?
I don't remember most of it. But there's a
Mike
state.
coming in
There's some
prepared.
state. There's some state, and it's south of us, and they're opening a Bigfoot hunting season with I think a $25,000 reward
That's
for
right.
bagging one. So this is formal duck season, rabbit season, Bigfoot season.
I believe it was Georgia. I'm trying to pull up the article here. But yeah, it is very interesting. Travelandleisure.com is reporting on the story. So
Reliable
it's legit.
source.
It is actually Oklahoma. They may soon have an official Bigfoot hunting season and a $25,000 prize for catching the Bigfoot himself. Or
So
herself.
wasn't a previous episode? Didn't we talk about the giant Bigfoot sign? Isn't that in Oklahoma too? And then Stenning, you
No,
also
that was
had.
somewhere else.
I thought it was Oklahoma.
Maybe
Well,
it
either
was
way-
I thought it was
Oklahoma.
Michigan.
No, I thought it was Oklahoma.
I do
I don't know. We'll have to rewind the tape. Whatever. It doesn't. None of this matters. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's really.
I didn't mean to
interesting.
stop there. Jesus.
They're going to pass a bill. They're
Yes.
trying to pass a bill, and the chances are about 50-50, which, according to this article, are about 100% chance are higher than your chances of finding Bigfoot. So, little zing here in the last sentence of this Travel and Leisure article. They're really
Well, they're-
sticking it to us.
I love
They're
it.
one of the few left with journalistic integrity.
Absolutely, I get all my news from TravelandLeisure.com.
Jarvis, I formally apologize. Gasquatch is located in Idabel, Oklahoma.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay. Good memory.
Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, and then but I remember Stenning also had a news article from that too. But I don't think it was Sasquatch related. Wasn't it ghost related?
No, it was
Yeah.
ghost related.
Yeah, with the
Bar, right?
Burger King, right?
Yeah,
it was the haunted pizza
Burger King.
joint or haunted burger joint, and
Yeah.
they brought in the team with the EVPs, and they were testing. And turns out it was just like ghosts from all the cows that they killed to make the burgers. Yeah. So we're gonna. You guys want to dive in? We're talking internet urban legends today.
Yeah, fun topic. I feel like most internet savvy people probably know what we're going to talk about, right? I mean, I feel like the internet, if anyone in our generation is pretty savvy on the internet, hopefully.
Yeah. So you're
Sure.
sort of alluding to the one that everyone knows, right? So urban legends we've talked about before on the show. These
Yep.
are internet urban legends, which are started on the internet. So whether it be like
Yeah.
a forum or we're gonna sort of talk about all the different places that they start. But the one that Jarvis is alluding to, one of the big boys, or shall we say the Slender Boy, is Slenderman himself.
I like what you did right there. I just gotta say, I like
Thanks.
that. The
So-
Slender Man.
Right, there are definitely some people that have heard about Slenderman, but there probably are some that have not. And so we are going to start the show by sort of giving a brief synopsis about this popular internet urban legend, Slenderman, and then we're going to dive into sort of our own topics, a little bit less known, less well-known topics. So who wants to start us off with a little bit of Slenderman?
Well,
info.
I guess first we should probably talk about what Slenderman even looks like and what he does before, for those who aren't familiar. So, if you've never heard of this guy, Slenderman, basically, in a nutshell,
He's a good guy.
He's a good, great guy.
Not really. So, Slenderman is this internet urban legend, sort of mythological figure that has kind of taken on almost a life of his own on the net, where it's sort of like that same kind of tradition where, like, you would tell a story and then through the game of telephone, someone would pick it up and tell somebody else, and then things just evolve over time. It's modern day mythology in a sense.
It's
right?
what we talked about in the Urban Legends episode.
Exactly.
So it's like any
to
urban
a
legend.
T.
Yeah.
To a T. Exactly. And instead of it being tied to like a specific cultural group or a specific area or something, it's tied to the internet.
Right. So what does he look like, Mitch?
So Slenderman is, picture this, you have a normal human being, right? Now stretch him to be about around 7 to 8 feet tall, okay? And put him in a black suit, make him impossibly thin, and his face is completely blank, stark white, no facial features, and he's got these abnormally elongated limbs that are disproportional to the rest of his body, both his arms and his legs. So that is the classic depiction of this Slenderman monster. That's
Often wearing a black suit and tie. I'm sorry, did you mention that?
Yes. Often wearing a black suit and tie. Sometimes the tie is red. It changes depending on the artist or
red
the
is scary.
depictor.
Red is scary.
Yeah. Red is a scary color, especially when it's paired with black.
Yeah,
right?
Right. Sixth Sense.
Exactly.
Other movies. Scary.
Yeah.
Red.
So, Slenderman, as it goes, supposedly is this sort of evil entity of sorts that stalks, just out of the corner of your vision, or is, lives within the forest, or, all these, your typical boogeyman stuff. He's the thing under your bed. He's the thing that's, hiding beneath the, behind your shades at the window late at night, right? He's the thing in your closet.
Is a great one-to-one.
Yes, exactly. Almost perfect, right?
The Baba Yaga?
Yeah, exactly. That same kind of thing, right? So, what Slenderman supposedly does is he has a thing for abducting children and taking them away, and where he takes them and what happens to them, they don't know, but he's supposed to be the person who's like really behind a lot of the missing children's cases in all over the world, right?
Right.
And
He's a big old pedophile.
yeah, maybe.
We don't know what he does with the kids, so we
Yeah,
can't
we
really.
don't know.
Just hope murderer.
Allegedly.
Let's
Right.
just hope murderer.
Yes.
Yeah, let's hope murderer.
Yeah, let's not go dark with it or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, no, we don't want to go too dark.
Yeah. So, but because of, you can start to see like all the things align here, right? Where you got this image of this really creepy tall guy, right? Who, which it's basically taking something that's human and making it not really human anymore. And then, who's the ultimate target of a lot of creepy stories on the internet is kids. Kids are the ones who like get really into these creepy stories and spread them around and stuff like that, right?
And they're dumb enough to believe it.
And exactly,
Really
and they're dumb enough to fall for it. So you can really see how this thing, especially because it's something that's targeting kids, right? In the sense of like, that's what the monster preys on, right? And so you can easily see how this starts to take on a life of its own and gets spread around and all over the place. And, that's all well and good, except for the fact that Slenderman is total bullshit in the fact that it doesn't actually exist.
Right.
And it's just, people taking some dumb story on the internet and spreading it around. And I'd be more than happy to go into the origins of where exactly the Slender Man thing, how it started, how it exploded, how it got all popular, and then how everybody, after it got popular, everybody ruined it. because I'm a hipster like that.
Everybody ruined it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean-
It dates back to 2009, right? That's what I have here. Is 2009 is a little an origin, and it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, but there was like a Photoshop contest, right, to create like a weird photo,
Yeah.
and that was sort of the initial creation of this image that you described. This tall, slender, creepy-looking man without a face.
Yeah, so Slender Man, right? So that Photoshop contest was on a website that's called Something Awful. And see, back in the day, the internet's a little different now because...
Oh, my God, Mitch.
Is it?
The internet is a little different now.
It is a little different now. So, like, because of sites like Reddit and stuff, a lot of things are sort of conglomerated into, like, one big place where you can go and sort of get everything. But back, you know, in, like, 2009, things were still a little more spread out, right? So you had places like Something Awful and sites like Newgrounds and E-Bombs World and You're the Man Now Dog and all these websites.
Forgot about that site.
Where like all these memes and viral creations and internet culture basically started grassroots at these places, right? So Something Awful is one of those like famous websites from back in the day along the lines of like, you know, all those sites I named where a lot of the early memes came from and viral stuff came from. And one of their things that they did, which they kind of started on the internet, was that the practice of photoshopping images becoming a very regular thing on the internet as part of like a joke or a gag or like...
A meme.
Yes, exactly, right? So they also started, just to give you some examples of how important this website is to the history of the internet. If you're a fan of video game stuff on the internet, the entire concept of what's called a Let's Play, which is when you watch somebody play a video game, was started on this forum. That's where it comes from. So in 2009, they have this Photoshop contest on the paranormal section of these forums where... You know, you Photoshop an image and you make something creepy, and right, whoever wins gets a prize and all that. So this guy, his name is Eric Knudsen, not to be confused with the actor of the same name. He's posting. Yeah, there's an actor named Eric Knudsen.
The amount of information here is wild.
Yeah. So he posts under this name, Victor Surge, and he submits 2 photographs that he photoshopped. And the first photo is like this crowd of unidentified children. It's in black and white. And then looming just out of focus in the background, you got this like impossibly tall humanoid figure, black jacket, no face. And then another one was like, there's like this kid climbing a slide. And then in the background, there's this like creepy tall figure. And then there's like children crowded around him. And he submits with those photos some text that kind of like, you know, builds up this mythos of one of these photos, he appears with a quote that says, "One of 2 recovered photographs from Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence." And then he attributes that quote to like the photographer who took that photo in 1986 and has been missing since like June 13th, 1986. So within like 2 days of that being posted, it took off like wildfire on these forums. So within a matter of like 2 days, another guy who makes a separate post on the Paranormal forum, not even in the Photoshop thread, just a separate post, takes this, he makes up this ancient 16th century fairy tale about what's called Der Grossmann, or the tall
German,
man.
right?
Yes, it's
My
German.
nickname.
Right? Yeah. And it's about this...
Grossmann.
Yep.
And it's about this ancient fairy in the Black Forest of Germany who abducted children. And then quickly, you know, on the forum, they start pairing this story with this famous woodcut from back in the day that's called Der Ritter, which is basically, if you've never seen it, it shows like this knight and he's fighting like this this skeleton knight who's supposed to be like death, and he's getting like a lance impaled through him. But they photoshopped that woodcut to make it look like the skeleton has multiple limbs and is really long. And it just starts to spread all over the place. You start getting fan art and, you know, all sorts of people writing their own stories about this Slender Man, like building on this mythos.
Right, people that want to get in on it, right?
Exactly. People who want to share the fun. It was all about sharing the fun at this point, right? And then within 10 days on YouTube, two guys get together and they've started this sort of found footage styled series that debuts 10 days after the original Slender Man post called Marble Hornets. And Marble Hornets is this, it's basically the video diary entries of a guy named Jay. And Jay is looking into the disappearance of his friend Alex, who was a film student who was making a short film in 2006 named Marble Hornets, right? And basically he acquired all of Alex's film and he's piecing it together with like his own video diary investigation, trying to figure out what happened to his friend. And it soon becomes apparent in that show that there's this mysterious being that's behind Alex's disappearance in some way, and he's known as the Operator. And he's this impossibly tall, faceless man in a black suit. And it's Slender Man, and that's like the first adaptation you get of Slender Man into you know, transcending into the visual medium of like video and stuff like that. And Marble Hornets becomes super popular by like the end of the series run in like 2013. They had like over 54 million views throughout their whole series. Like if you total everything together, they had like on their main channel, they had about 250,000 subscribers. So it was a pretty popular thing. And a lot of like the tropes of like Slender Man and how he looks and his powers and all this comes from like Marble Hornets. So for instance, there's like this trope about Slender Man where like if you film him or if like, you know, you're recording it with a camera, he'll make like the camera go all fuzzy and all that kind of stuff. So like a big part of the story in Marble Hornets is that a lot of the film footage from Alex's film is this like it's unusable. It's a lot of it has no audio or is really bad quality or it's like all staticky or tearing. And then in the instances where Slender Man shows up and they film him very briefly because, you know, in actuality, it's only like a mannequin that they're filming, right? Or like some dude in a costume. They do like, you know, a whole bunch of editing to like the camera starts freaking out and the audio gets all scratchy and stuff like that. And seeing the Operator makes people go insane. And if you keep getting like regular exposure to Slender Man, makes you get really sick and you get like a, you know, develop like a harsh coughing illness.
It's like that the Lovecraft influence again.
Exactly.
Like going insane. It always comes back to him.
Yes, in fact, Eric Knudsen, the guy who originally created Slender Man, cited Lovecraft as one of his influences for coming up with the monster, right?
Makes
and
sense.
Then in that show, Slender Man can also like teleport and move around in, you know, like impossible manners in relation to space and time. So a lot of that stuff that people now associate with Slender Man starts in the show Marble Hornets. And another thing, just one last thing I want to touch upon is in that show, one thing that was kind of introduced to like the Slender Man mythos is he has these things that have gone on to now become known as what's called proxies to Slender Man, but they weren't called that in the show. But he basically has like brainwashed human servants that are connected to him and carry out his will. And one of the major characters in Marble Hornets was actually an entirely separate YouTube channel that was called To the Ark, which was in possession of like footage from Alex's film that Jay didn't have. And he would like upload responses to, this was back when you could upload a response to a YouTube video, which a lot of people forget was once a thing. You could actually upload like directly to a YouTube video, you could upload a video response. So he would like upload video responses to the entries that Jay was making on the Marble Hornets thing. And all of this is presented in like this found footage type style where like it's supposed to be taken as true, right? So then the hit game Slender came out, and it ruined everything.
This is where I come in. This is where I learned about Slenderman. Like, this is where my point of reference when it
So
comes
if
to
you
knowing
can't
this.
tell by my whole spiel, I was big into Slenderman before it became popular. I remember learning about it in like
The weirdest thing to be proud about. Honestly,
I know.
That hipster flex.
you're so proud of this.
I am super proud. I am the Slenderman hipster, dude. I was big into Slenderman way back in like 9th and 10th grade. I remember being in like 10th grade and I wanted to make like a short horror film that was about like a detective looking for missing children who stumbles upon like the Slenderman mythos and starts like going insane and stuff like that. All the way back in like 10th
Sounds cool.
grade. Yeah, I know. And then, you know, the horror game came out and he got super popular and then everybody ruined it.
So you think he's ruined because he got popular? So that's what ruined it for you? That's
Yeah,
like,
well, I think what happened
What
was once it got popular, right? I hate to sound like I'm gatekeeping things because I'm really not. When he got super popular, a whole bunch of people started making Slenderman stuff, which was all right, you know. Except the thing is, the more people you have making things for one thing, the lower the bar starts to drop, right?
Of course, it hits a
Because-
critical max, and it's,
Exactly, right? So then, you know, all of a sudden...
Star Wars.
Exactly. So all of a sudden, you know, you got Slenderman fan art of all these like goofy things and erotic fan art of him on DeviantArt, and it's just like
there it is.
Nothing wrong with
There's
that.
DeviantArt.
Hell yeah. Slenderman with the suit on, nice and slender. With his clothes off, nice and thick. Thick man.
He is a thick boy.
Ooh, man, that backside ain't slender.
Hey, but I know you're shitting on the game a lot, but that game was actually pretty terrifying. I remember.
Oh,
I
the
remember
game was
playing
fine.
it when it first came out. Yeah,
yeah.
I
The
remember.
game- yeah.
It was. What was it? You had to like collect lost pages,
eight
right,
pages,
from like an
right?
old
Is that
book.
Slender?
Yeah.
Yes.
pages.
Yeah. So basically, the game was you played as this character lost in the woods,
Yep.
and you had like
You had what? Just a flashlight, right? Yeah.
Yep. You just had a flashlight, and you had to go around collecting pages of drawings, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
or were
I
they
think so.
journal entries? I think they were drawings, and I think that's another thing that kind of got borrowed from Marble Hornets, because a big part of that was Alex would leave behind drawings for like Jay to find, right? So you're going around and you're collecting these drawings of Slenderman, and all the time he's like stalking you behind you. And the whole object of the game is to collect these 8 pages before Slenderman catches you. But like when you turn your player view to face Slenderman, the screen will start getting all staticky and stuff, right? And start like freaking out and all that kind of stuff. So, they're borrowing all the pieces from the Slenderman stories that like people had written, or stuff from Marble Hornets, or like some of the other Slenderman video series that were out at the time, and they kind of compile it all together into Slender. And then it takes off like wildfire because all those big YouTubers who are into like playing all the spooky games and making funny faces when they get scared, like PewDiePie and Markiplier, and all those kids. For anybody who's out there who's listening above the age of 40, you won't know any of these guys, but I guarantee
only know PewDiePie.
I
That's the only one
guarantee that
recognize.
if you have a kid who's 22 or younger, he knows who all these people are. So
What do you think our demographic is? Never mind.
I don't know. That one was specifically for Bob.
I will
People who have
never.
kids that are 22.
I'll never understand the appeal of watching someone else play video games. I don't know if it's because I grew up playing video games. I cannot find any entertainment value in watching someone play video games.
I never played Super Mario 64 until recently. I always just watched my friends play it when I was a kid.
Really?
I'm someone who is not very good at video games, and so for me, I do enjoy watching other people play because I'm not. I don't have the patience for anything like more complicated than like a Mario or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like Final Fantasy, like I'll watch someone play Zelda,
Yeah.
like Breath of the Wild, I didn't have the patience for. I wish I had played the whole thing. I love to watch people play.
Yeah, that game's
Yeah,
incredible,
yeah.
anyways. Though.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So that's interesting. So there's definitely like two thought
Yeah.
processes when it comes to video
Sure.
games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like. I get frustrated watching other people play because it's like you know what to do, but they don't.
Dude,
I get so
that's
frustrated
the
when it
worst
comes to
You're
that.
so
right?
handcuffed. Right.
Especially
Yeah, yeah.
if it's a game like you're super familiar with.
Exactly.
Right? Like one of my favorite things, and not to get off topic, it'll only be real quick, but one of my favorite things to do with watching video games online is because I'll never be able to play some of my favorite games blind again for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And get that first time experience. I like to watch other people do it so I can kind of relive those memories vicariously. But at the same time, there's like my favorite games, so I know a lot about them now. So like they'll be fighting like a boss and struggling, and I'd be like, I'm like tearing my hair out. Like this is so easy. I've done this 6 billion times. Like
Okay, that's a good way to look at it. I never thought of it like that. Is like go back and watch some games that we know well, and see someone else play it for the first time is kind of exciting. Actually, I never thought of that. That's cool. I might have to go watch some people who play Resident Evil again, because that game I've played to death, and I'd love to see someone get scared again by it, because it's not it's not a scary game, especially if you've played it a million times.
Oh, I'm sure. A lot of the horror games are like that. Like I remember. Like Silent Hill used to freak me out back in the day. But
that's another thing that inspired Slenderman.
Yes.
That game. Bringing it all back. That was a very terrifying game. Those nurses in that game used to terrify me. And Pyramid Head and all that shit.
Absolutely.
It's too bad that franchise, they ruined that franchise. But anyways, that's beside the
don't even get me
point.
started.
Yeah. Oh, God, we could turn this into a video game podcast. But back to Slenderman.
Yeah. So the Slender game comes out, right? And explodes in popularity because the audience size pretty much doubles then triples overnight with all these YouTubers who have a big kid audience. So like PewDiePie has a big kid audience, Markiplier has a big kid audience. All these guys that would be playing Slenderman, the Slenderman game, are showing this stuff to kids now who may not have heard of it before. Like unless you were, hanging out on Something Awful forums, or you were, stumble onto Marble Hornets on YouTube, or maybe some other fringe community, you wouldn't have been super familiar. But now it's super popular and all over the place. So it just takes off like wildfire for the next like 2 years, and Slenderman is the big man on the internet, right?
He's a Sasquatch of internet.
Pretty much. He is the Bigfoot
creepypastas.
of the internet creepy stuff, right?
Yeah.
So after that happens, then something sort of unfortunate happens, which is I mean this seriously. Something unfortunate happens, which is they have that stabbing in Waukesha. I don't know how to say it.
Waukesha?
Waukesha.
I think it's how you pronounce it. Yeah.
Waukesha. I don't know. It's funny. Like I know how to pronounce all these Japanese and Chinese things, but throw me a city from Wisconsin.
Yeah, no dice.
Can't do it. No way. But yeah, so they have that. This is probably where I think people who aren't super savvy in the internet have probably heard of Slenderman from.
Yeah.
It's from the Waukesha stabbing that happened.
So all the parents of the 22-year-olds.
Yes. So basically, in a nutshell, you got these 3 girls in Waukesha who are kind of studied up, right, on Slenderman. They've stumbled onto Slenderman on the internet, and their children, they're like only 12 years old, I think.
Yeah.
And they have convinced themselves that Slenderman is real, 2 of these girls. And they decide that they want to become proxies of Slenderman, these servants of Slenderman. So what they do is they come up with the idea that they have to sacrifice their friend to Slenderman to appease him, or else he's going to come after them and their families. Mm-hmm. So they lure their victim out into the woods, and they stab her 19 times and leave her for dead in the woods. Miraculously, the girl survives, thankfully. And she manages to pretty much crawl through the woods to like the side of a road where she's found by somebody.
Yeah, and who finds her?
A biker.
Yeah.
A
There you go.
bicyclist, not a motorcycle. A bicyclist. Is that the proper term, John? Bicyclist?
I would say cyclist. But
cyclist,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, a cyclist finds her. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Very, really touched my heart. Really. Yeah. Yeah, so she crawls out of the woods, right, and this person finds her, and, she goes to the hospital. Right, you said she was stabbed 19 times.
Yeah.
Brutal.
One of the stabbings like missed her heart by a millimeter.
Yeah, it was pretty
Just
pretty
like
crazy.
absolutely brutal. When the two girls left her, they said they were going to go get help for her.
Yeah.
they never
but
did.
they lied. They just ditched her.
Yes, and what they
Which-
did, I found this out very recently, was they went into the woods because they believed in the woods that there was a mansion in that woods, an old decrepit mansion where Slender Man lived.
The
that
Slender
they-
Mansion.
Yeah, and they thought that they were going to go find this mansion and meet him after they left her for dead.
And to their surprise, they didn't. They
No.
met the inside of a jail cell.
Yeah, and they
Right? Did they go to jail? Actually, or are they too young?
Yeah.
yeah,
they
they
did
went
go to
to
jail?
they went to like juvenile jail.
They went
And
to
they got sentenced to 25 years.
yeah,
Damn, they went to Folsom. They got sent to the hard
yeah,
jail.
25 years to life. I think one of the girls' sentences is.
Yeah.
Holy shit! And wait, what
And
year
that's-
was this? Was this like 2010-ish? When
That was in
this?
2014.
2014,
okay.
and the Slender game came out in like 2012, so about
Okay.
2 years after the Slender game comes out, right? So this is like the height of Slender Man's popularity, the big Slender Man frenzy, if you want
Yeah.
to call it, right? Is that
Yep.
period of like 2010 all the way up until like
The murders.
I would say 2014, 2015 was when Slender Man was at its height across the
Yeah.
internet.
And then this stabbing is kind of what burst that bubble, like the Slender
Yes,
Man
and
bubble.
that's when things started to get taken a little seriously, and you know, the hype sort of dies down, so to speak.
Yeah, there were a couple other stories of other people that wanted to be proxies for Slender Man that happened in the same year. A 14-year-old girl in Florida, she set her house on fire with her mom and her brother
Yep, I
inside.
read about that.
I remember that.
Citing that Slender Man asked her to do so. And then also in 2014, a girl in Ohio, she attacked her mom with a knife. And she was wearing a mask when she did it, and she said that she was doing it to appease Slenderman.
That's very Michael Myers,
With a
reminiscent of that. Damn, that's some terrifying stuff. What is wrong with people?
Yeah, so like it's just interesting that it totally spread. Just like one quick thing. Actually, is there anything that Mike that you want to add to the Slender Man like mythos that you've looked up or anything like that?
I tried to watch the 2016 movie.
Yeah,
Slender.
and because I haven't seen it yet. Is it awful?
Like the feature film, right? This is like a narrative feature film about
Yeah.
the Slender Man.
Yeah, I shut it off about half hour.
now,
Just bad.
is that movie about the stabbing, or is it actually
No.
they're trying to create
Looks
like
because I don't think I ever saw murder bullets or whatever the hell
Marble
Hornets.
Hornets?
Marble Hornets.
Murder bullets?
So it looked like Mitch described that.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was based on. It was like
Is it like a found footage movie?
yeah. With one guy like filming his buddy at a bar, and the people at the bar
Oh,
threatening him.
Mike's dead.
Am I back with my shitty internet?
Interesting.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so-
it sounds like it's a
but I
movie I
wanted to
don't want to
mention-
watch. So I'm
I
kind of
wanted to
glad I missed that
mention,
bullet.
Full disclosure to Mitch, I was posting on the Something Awful forums at that time, and I was
Oh, really?
I was participating in their Photoshop contest, like Photoshop Friday.
That's
I
awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
I wasn't. I had to look it up because you know me, my memory, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
Michigan, same state. But yeah,
That's cool.
I remember the Something Awful forums quite fondly. That was a great website. Is it still around?
Yeah,
Is it-
it's still around. You have to pay a membership fee now
Okay.
to post. And then
I
they have
feel
like,
like-
different tiers of payment for different privileges.
Gotcha. I just feel like most of those people moved over to like Reddit and 4chan and like they
Yeah,
kinda
that's where
went.
a lot of them went now. Is
Yeah. Well, it was a better platform. I mean,
Yeah.
Reddit was a much better platform, but I'm sure Something Awful's better now, but who knows?
how terrifying having a post on the internet that you make, whether it's Photoshop or otherwise, eventually leading to attempted murders.
Yeah. Has anyone interviewed this Eric guy about like how
I think
he
there
feels?
are interviews with him about. I don't know if they interview him about the stabbing, but I think there are
Just the
definitely
whole culture.
interviews about like, you know, how's it feel to know like this thing that you created in this Photoshop contest has taken on this life of his own and has almost become like real to people.
Wow.
And what a weird effect too that internet urban legends have over urban legends, because like you said, it's the idea of a telephone, the story that gets passed along, whereas with the internet you have all these data nodes just kind of swarming together and working with each other and off each other, so you have these like super distilled and combined ideas that like ferment into something even greater that became the video game and then ultimately changed these humans' reality to where they almost killed their friend, you know? And it's like, what a difference between like that and just a campfire story, you know? And then, they heard that the scratching on the side of the car and then the claw stayed on the handle as we drove away. But then it turns into like, we have to appease him, and in order to do it, like,
it's very Cult of Cthulhu. Another
But
going
very
back
much,
to Lovecraft.
that
It is
are
very
participating
Lovecraftian.
in it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
One thing we didn't really mention, I know John and I talked about it a little bit, is like the tulpa effect, which is, it's I'll just read the definition here. Tulpa is a thought form or being created from the collective thoughts of separate individuals. So, I mean, that basically describes what Mike just said about how the internet is like a node and we all kind of, or like a beehive, and all the bees are all working around the hive, are all helping and stuff. But I see tulpa effect thrown around a lot, especially with these types of creatures. Like you'll see it a lot in the creepypasta stuff.
Because it's like a snowball effect almost, right? Like so many people are talking about it, so many people want to get involved with it, that like just the fact of it being circulated over and over again, it's sort of, that's the idea of the tulpa effect, right? And it is based in like Tibetan Buddhism mythology, where, you know, something is created from one's own mind because of all this thought that goes into it. And at first you think like, what, like, okay, that sounds a little bit far-fetched, but I mean, from 2009 to the creation to 2014, like, these people are invoking Slenderman to sort of do these terrible things that they're doing. And so you're like, you know, although the entity itself, as far as I'm concerned, at least, is not real, at least it manifested itself in the real world in this way that like made it bigger than it. I mean, like a silly Photoshop.
Yeah.
It
became bigger than the story that created it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which I think is really neat.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of cool stuff out there about Slenderman.
There is, I know there's, I think it's Cuban culture. There's a certain part, I forget what part of the religion it is that they study it, but they actually create tulpas where they create like a shrine and they create it all within their own, like they add their own things to it, and then it becomes their tulpa, and that's what they worship. And you see it a lot in Cuba and like southern Florida, I guess, and stuff. And yeah, so it's still very like, it's something people do. It's something people worship, which is wild. And people worship Slenderman apparently, and they went and stabbed their friends. Scary world.
That's putting it mildly, my friend.
Yeah. Well, that was awesome, Mitch. Slenderman is a terrifying creepypasta if you didn't know how silly of an origin it had. So cool. Is that it?
So,
so
Mitch, you're gonna tell us a little bit about a less well-known internet urban legend. Is that correct?
Yes, and
Sweet.
I'm gonna try to keep it as concise as I can.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, I know I'm long-winded. So when I wanted to do an internet urban legend, I didn't want to just do one that started from the internet. I wanted to do one that was about the internet too, right? So in case people don't know, there's what we call the surface web, right? Which is about only 10% of...
I'm going to keep it brief. Here's the history of the internet.
So Al Gore
So there's the surface web, which is about only 10% of the actual internet that you're familiar with, right?
Okay.
And then beneath that is what's called the deep web, which is all the stuff that's running in the background.
That's where you get the good drugs, kids.
No,
on the
not
deep
yet.
web.
That's
Not
the
yet.
dark
Oh,
web.
dark That's web. the dark
I
web.
fucked that joke
The deep
up.
web. The deep web is all the stuff that's running in the background. All those like unlisted pages on Google that are just pages
Right.
running script for like Google to work. Right.
Like they're doing things, right?
Yes, right. But then at the very bottom, think of it like an iceberg, right? Going down to the bottom, below the water, below the deep web is the dark web, and that's about 2,000 to 3,000 websites who are basically their addresses are just not indexed by search archives like Google or by Yahoo or any of those search engines. And the thing about the dark web is it's got like a very notorious reputation for being a very scary place. Supposedly, right? If you have enough cryptocurrency, you can hire a hitman on the dark web. Or you can delve yourself into some human and drug trafficking. There was this yeah.
Just to make it clear for everyone, when you say hitman, that's someone who like writes a hit song, right? Like you can hire someone to write a hit song.
You can hire supposedly you can hire a professional assassin on the dark web.
Yes, assassins. Okay.
Yes. If you
Much
have
different than a hit maker like a Bruno Mars or something like
Bruce
that.
Springsteen.
Yeah.
Yes. No. I wish you could hire Bruce Springsteen on the dark web.
I don't know.
Yeah, so supposedly all sorts of bad stuff is on the dark web, right?
Nefarious criminal activity.
Yes.
Dark web.
Just for research,
drug trafficking, gun trafficking, child trafficking, all that
everything
kind
bad.
of terrible stuff that you would never want to ever deal with.
To each his own.
Yeah.
So just for research purposes, for my research, how does one get on the dark web? How does one search for
I'm
things
gonna
on the
leave
browser?
out the crucial steps, but yeah, one of the big things is this thing that's called the Tor browser. So Tor is like this browser that was invented, I think, by the CIA.
It was kind of
OR.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, TOR.
And,
it works like a VPN, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
kind of in
So
the same
basically,
vein?
what it does is it encrypts your address. And sends it through multiple different proxies, and it's ping-ponging across servers across the planet. So, like, one site, your signal's coming from England, and then the next site, your signal's coming from Kazakhstan, right? So
very nice.
So, be careful, though, because every once in a while, on the dark web, or even on the surface web, you might get a pop-up one day that simply asks, in quotations, "Do you like?" Now you close that pop-up down and it pops up again. And no matter how many times you close it down, it keeps popping up until finally it asks, "Do you like red
Russian
rooms?"
singles?
No. Do you like red rooms? Accompanied by a strange link you've never seen before. It ends with this weird thing that says .onion. So, of course, you can't open that in Google Chrome or Firefox, so you need to download Tor to get into that site. So, but if you hold on, I'm lost in my notes. Sorry.
Oh no, he's in the dark web. He's in the dark web.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Sucking
All
it
right.
in.
So, you got to be careful of these red rooms because what it is if you go onto one, you can watch supposedly kidnapped people, a helpless man or woman or a child get restrained in a tarp-covered room and tortured to death, live streamed for your amusement.
Oh my god!
And for a few bitcoins, you can participate in the fun. If you pay enough crypto, you might even get to decide what instrument the torturer gets to use next. Right?
I don't know if I'd call it fun.
Bitcoins.
Yeah, a few bitcoins, so like $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
What the hell?
So, but you gotta be careful
low
because
price.
if you ever watch a red room, you might become a target to end up in one because supposedly that's also how they get their next victims is they trace you
Interesting.
through that, right? But how do I know about red rooms? Well, I heard about it from a friend who said that his friend stumbled upon it one night, late at night, and he was horrified by what he saw. But we haven't heard from that friend since.
Whoa.
And of course, a certain anonymous poster who shared a creepy image of this lone steel chair in the middle of a room definitely assured me that red rooms were real, and it's probably best not to ask too many questions.
Right.
So why shouldn't you ask too many questions about red rooms? Well, because
Red rum?
if you ask too many questions, you'll quickly find out that they pretty much do not exist. So
Interesting.
there's no documented red rooms on the dark web. The ones that supposedly have always turned out to be a hoax. So
Okay.
there was this notorious one in like 2015 that was this website on the dark web that had a countdown to a live stream, and supposedly when the live stream started, it was going to have members of ISIS getting tortured, right, for your amusement. So
Oh, live. That was a .gov.
Yeah, Biden set that up.
So, but when the countdown finishes, that website just goes offline, and then like several hours later, it comes back up, and there's just a 20-minute video of a guy being force-fed bacon.
I love it. I love it.
That's racist.
A little bit, but you know, a bunch of like hacktivist groups and white hat hackers who are like the good guy hackers that use their skills for good. They've done examinations of like the supposed red rooms, and they are completely lacking in like security measures. You'd think, you know, if you're going to be running a live stream torture service, you would think that security would be the utmost importance, and the password to your server wouldn't just be password. So there's also the fact that police all across the globe crack down on dark web criminals all the time. So, like, there was this big website on the dark web that was called the Silk Road, which was where you could get, like, a whole bunch of
Rest
drugs.
in peace, baby. Rest
Yeah.
in peace to the Silk Road.
I
And
know
it
some
was-
people that actually got drugs off of the Silk Road.
Yeah,
Like,
and it was
it
You know
works.
some people.
it
It's
was
crazy.
helmed by this guy who called himself the Dread Pirate Roberts, which I find hysterical because.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
a reference to Princess Bride.
Yep.
Love it.
Lovely.
But even he got brought down. They caught him
did.
eventually.
Yeah.
They and the Silk Road closed. So the closest thing there ever was to a red room was there was this absolutely heinous child abuser in the Philippines who recorded excessive child abuse and murder, and he sold the videos on the dark web, but he didn't live stream them. And thankfully that guy's rotting to the end of his life in a Filipino prison right now.
And hopefully being beaten by bamboo stalks.
I
too, every
absolutely
day.
hope so.
Fuck that guy.
The other reason red rooms can't exist is because the way Tor works with like bouncing your IP address all over the place, right?
You'd never be able to track someone.
Not only that, dude, you wouldn't be able to stream anything. It'd be so slow. The
Yeah,
buffer
yeah,
rate
yeah.
and the lag on like the video as it's ping-ponging across all those servers would be like you would have to watch something in like 144p super compressed.
One
Right?
frame a second.
Exactly. It's impossible. The technology isn't there.
Yeah,
So-
no way. It'd be like back in the day when you try to watch porn on the internet when you had a 56K modem, and it's
Yeah.
like you can only get the stills, and then it still takes like 20 minutes for the lines to come
For it
in
to
as it's
file
loading
in,
in.
yeah.
So,
So-
these red rooms, do they have a red
Yeah.
door that you want to paint black?
No, they don't. But there's an origin to the term red room that I'm going to
Thank you, Mike.
get into just real quick. So
Okay.
it turns out that the reason they're called red rooms in the first place actually comes from Japan. And that like urban legend of like the pop-up thing in of like, you know, keeps popping up until it says, "Do you like red room?"
Yeah.
comes from like a Japanese internet urban legend where, as the story goes, when you would least expect it, you get this pop-up that asks, "Anata wa ski desu ka?" which translates to "Do you like?" And if you close that pop-up down, it would keep popping up until it asks, "Anata wa ake heya ga suki desu ka?" Do you like red room? Right? So, and supposedly this cursed pop-up would drive you so insane that you would lock yourself in the room and you would kill yourself and you would paint the room red with your own blood. Right?
Was there a movie? Was there a Japanese movie based on
There
this
is.
too?
I'm pretty
That's
sure
what-
there is. Right?
Pretty sure I've seen that.
Yeah. And, you know, that starts. So this urban legend spreads around on like Japanese sites like 2channel and Futaba Channel, which is also known as 2chan. And then it spreads to the English speaking world via 4chan. Then it makes its way to Something Awful and then to Newgrounds. And then around 2004, there's this website that's set up with this flash animation in Japanese about these two students who end up both killing themselves because of the Red Room curse. And if you didn't have pop-ups disabled on your browser, a pop-up would appear on the page after the video
While
ended
you're-
asking
wow.
you, "Do you like Red Room?" Yeah, in Japanese.
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
So, unfortunately, though, there is a little bit of a dark kernel of truth to this whole Japanese Red Room thing. In 2004, there was a Japanese elementary schooler who's known as Girl A in the case files, and she stalked her classmate cornered her in an empty classroom and slit her throat with a box cutter.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is like a famous event in Japan called the Sasebo slashing, named after the town it took place in. And the girl was later diagnosed with severe Asperger's, and her reasoning for killing her victim was that they had a big heated fight online together. But the thing is that girl A was a fan of very violent content on the internet, and she was a big fan of the Red Room Flash animation. And she told the police that. So, in a way, it's weird, kind of the parallel almost between something like that and the Slenderman stabbings that happened. There's a level of bizarreness there that I'm not sure how to feel about.
Yeah, it seems to be like
Bad. Badly.
it's always kids. It seems like these kids are getting sucked into these. Kids are dumb these days, I guess. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, we were smart. I was so smart as a kid.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, what happened to like the days of just breaking shit and like
Right. Listening to Limp Bizkit, break stuff.
yeah.
Dude, the internet was not a net positive for the world. I'm convinced of that more and more every day.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, it almost feel like you need to be 21 plus to even get on the internet, but we're over 21, so I don't care if they enact that law at this point.
Yeah. So
But
that's the
damn,
end of my
wild.
spiel.
That's awesome.
So be afraid of red rooms, and if you ever get that pop up, probably just better to hit the power button and walk away.
Yeah, right.
I might just
Shut it down.
Yeah,
shut her down.
they can't catch you if your computer's off.
Right.
Make sure you throw your router out too, so they
Yeah.
can't find that either. Can't track your IP
Jarvis,
address.
what's with your lighting?
What?
Oh shit!
My
The
lighting?
lighting just
I
shifted
set
to
it
red.
to the wrong color. I'm sorry,
Uh-oh.
guys.
Uh-oh. Spooky.
All right, now it's not red anymore.
Oh, nice. That was smooth.
Blue room.
Mitch,
That's
you want
cool,
to
Mitch.
come over real quick? I have a live stream I want to start. I have
No,
a chair
thank
over
you.
here. I want you to come sit on.
No, thank you.
I was hoping that like when the stream started, it was just like Saw, like a Saw marathon. You know?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like another Dread Pirates Roberts reference. It's just Carrie Elwes having to like remove his own leg. You want to play a game? Because Jigsaw asked him if he wanted to play a game.
Hell yeah! Oh my god.
Never
Well,
heard of that before. That's cool.
so that was awesome.
Yeah, so Jarvis, you got a little something for
Yeah,
us? A little lesser
I do,
known one
but I
that
feel like
I know I've never heard of.
I feel like I'm not going to be able to be as detail oriented as Mitch, so I'm probably going to miss some details, and I highly recommend you jumping into this. There's a lot of really cool videos on what I'm about to talk about that you can
Yeah, so we
find
can link some
on YouTube.
videos in the show notes for
Yeah.
this week's.
Because I might miss some details here. You know, I want to keep stuff moving. But anyways, I did the Russian sleep experiment, which I don't. John, you said you haven't heard it. Mitch, Mike, you guys heard
I'm
of it?
familiar.
So this was like the first time I really got exposed to like some like a creepypasta I thought was legitimately real. Because when I heard this when it first came out, and I thought it was legit. I thought it was real because it's set in real time, and it's like it's during a time where pretty heinous shit happened, which is World War II time, around 1940s, late 30s into the 40s. So it's kind of easy to like fall into believing that this story could be true. But anyways, I'll get into the story. Basically, the Russian sleep experiment was a way the Russians were trying to find a stimulant that would be able to compete with what the Nazis were using during World War II, which was just straight up crank. They were taking speed, amphetamines, all that crazy shit. So the Russians were like, oh, well, we need a way to keep our soldiers awake for like a month at a time so that they can fight back against the Nazis during World War II. So what happens is these Russian scientists have this room where they have 5 subjects, 5 Russian soldiers that they lock in this room for 30 days. And what they were doing was pumping in a gas stimulant that they created that would basically, it's just like aerosol meth. Like you just breathe it in and you're high as a kite. They would mix it with oxygen to kind of keep them alive. Like obviously you don't want to suffocate these guys by pumping in gas all day. So this was the days before closed circuit video. Like they couldn't just watch these guys on video. So all they had was a microphone, and they could hear what was going on in the room while these guys were just kind of hanging out. They would all be like, just chilling, going about their day. They had to spend 30 days together in this room, breathing this gas. So a few days go by. The subjects are all like in pretty good spirits. They're all, they seem pretty happy. They're playing games together. They're hanging out, telling stories, all that stuff. By the time the fourth day hits, they start hearing a lot more silence coming from inside the room. And it's a very unnerving silence because it's like, shit, these dudes were all pretty, they were all chatting the first few days, like what's going on? And they can't break the seal and get into the room because it would ruin the whole experiment. So they had to just kind of like wait it out and see what was up. And as the days started going on and on, they started hearing like demonic sounds coming through the microphones, like screaming and growling and like the sounds of like ripping, and just all these kind of ghastly sounds that you probably don't want to hear coming through a microphone in a sealed off room. So I forget how many days go by. I think it was 15 days of just constant screaming and just blood curdling sounds coming from there. So finally they're just like, fuck this. They evacuate the gas out of the room. They break the seal. They open the door. And when they go in there, they find all 5 dudes just completely ripped to shreds. Like all the dudes had all self-inflicted wounds. They were basically ripping off pieces of their flesh, eating the flesh, but they were all very much alive. They were basically like living zombies. And so the scientists, they take these guys out. They start to do like, they start to skin graft them and try to put their organs back in place as best they can. A couple of them end up dying in the process. But I think there was 2 or 3 that survived that initial craziness. And while they were in the hospital bed, they kept demanding that they get more gas because the regular air was killing them. They were basically addicted to the gas that was being pumped into that room. So finally they're like, as these guys are screaming in agony to get more gas, they're putting them all back together. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? So the scientists decide to put them back in the room and see if like they can stabilize these guys. And when they do, basically like all hell breaks loose and the guys go absolutely bananas and start ripping at their skin again and going crazy and pulling off all the skin grafts that they just got, and then just drop dead in the middle of getting all this gas pumped back into the room. And yeah, so I'm missing a part here, and I apologize. I'm not as detail oriented as Mitch, but after they all die, the whole experiment just gets wiped under the rug, and it goes on and becomes a part of secret history from World War II. And that's how the creepypasta was told on the internet when it first appeared, which was in August of 2010, is when the story first appeared. So,
because you're saying this took place like in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, this is like World War II era because they wanted, the whole thing was just to find a stimulant that could beat the Nazis.
Yeah,
they were all
keep their soldiers awake for a long period of time. Because
through long ass winter too, the long ass Russian winter.
So back in the day, for those who don't know, both the Nazis and the U.S. in particular were experimenting with a whole bunch of stimulants to like keep soldiers awake. So like the Nazis in the U.S. were giving like soldiers speed, like candy. In
like trucker crack.
Hitler took meth all the time.
Yep. Yeah, he was a tweaker. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that, but it's a pretty well known fact now. I mean,
he took speed. Like methamphetamine.
Yeah, if you look, I saw a really cool video on YouTube once where it kind of shows his. I mean, he wasn't the smart. I'm not saying Hitler's smart at all, but they compared his cognitive decline to his meth use, and basically all the way up to the point of where he killed himself, and you can see like just how he began falling apart. And I guess one of the main pivotal points in World War II was when he tried to spread himself into the Russian front, Western front. And spread himself too thin, and a lot of people attribute that to him being high as a fucking kite.
Wow.
Now, is it true that the Russian sleep experiment is how we ended up getting the sleep number bed calculation?
I think so. Yeah, because they were basing it on how many PSI they were pumping into the room had to do with how comfy your bed was.
Can I just say how fun it is to listen to you say, "Is it true?" and know that you're gonna you're setting something up. Like I'm just sitting here. Like, oh, what is he going to say? What is he gonna say? And the payoff for that was gold, baby. I loved that so much. Is it true? That's so good.
But, so it was basically like 2010. The story was written on a creepypasta website. I don't think it was something awful. I couldn't find something. It looks like it was just on a site called Creepypasta. Was that a thing, Mitch? Because I don't know.
Yeah, there's a big wiki, a creepypasta wiki, for a lot of these stories. It basically, if they didn't come from something awful, and they didn't come from 4chan, and they didn't come from r/no sleep, right?
They came from
the big
creepypasta.
Reddit subreddit for creepypasta stuff, then it probably came from the creepypasta wiki. And just for those who don't know, creepypasta is the term for, these urban legend internet scary stories that are spread around. And they're called creepypasta because on the internet, when you copy and paste something over and over, it's called a copy pasta, which is sort of like a corruption, a copy paste. So that's where the term comes from.
And when you're here, you're family.
Yeah.
So I want to read this last part because I missed a little bit of these details when I was telling the story. So when they brought the survivors back, I'll start from that point where they bring the survivors back into the room.
Yeah.
It says, after being somewhat treated for their severe injuries, the surviving 3 subjects were prepared to return to the gas chamber with the stimulant by the orders of the military officials. With EKG monitors showing short, recurring moments of brain death, before the chamber was sealed, one of the subjects fell asleep and died, and the only subject that could speak screamed to be immediately sealed in the chamber. The military commander ordered for 3 other researchers to be closed inside the chamber alongside the 2 remaining subjects. One researcher immediately drew his gun and killed the commander and the mute subject by shooting both of them in the head, causing the other person to flee the room. With only one surviving subject, the terrified researcher explained that he would not allow himself to be locked in a room with monsters that could no longer be called people. He desperately asked what the subject was, to which the subject smiled and identified himself and the other fallen subjects as an inherent evil inside the human mind that is kept in check by the act of sleeping. After a brief pause, the researcher shot the prisoner in the heart, and with his dying breath on the floor, the subject muttered his final words, "So nearly free." And that is unnerving as hell, thinking that your sleep is what keeps these inherent evils from coming out, So like basically like keeping them awake with this gas was making these people into conduits for like an evil demon, a demonic possession.
Yeah. Was it that the evil was always there and sleeping was what part of that check and balance system to make sure it didn't ever fully come out?
Yeah, I think it's I think you can interpret it any way. It's a creepypasta, right? So
well, that's the cool thing about it, right? And I think that's why these stories are so popular.
Yeah, absolutely. And I fell for this one immediately. When I first heard this story, I fell for it immediately. I forget where I first saw it. Yeah, I had to go right to bed because I had an inherent evil that was trying to get out as I was reading the story. But yeah, that was a very, I don't know. For me, that story feels a lot more like you can justify it happening because as history shows, a lot of our soldiers and Nazi soldiers, they were all on a lot of crank, and it makes this a little believable. Like, who knows? I mean, who knows what kind of gross experiments are going on that we don't know about or that happened, And I mean, we knew the Holocaust was real, and we knew those awful things were happening. So it would make sense to believe a story like this. And, I just found it really fascinating. And as soon as we started talking about doing the internet urban legends, this was the first one that popped in my head because it's just so creepy. And it just reminds me of, it almost reminds me of like a death metal record, like something that a death metal band would talk about. And that's right up my alley. So I was into it. But yeah, so that's the Russian sleep experiment. I basically gave you guys a pretty good rundown on it, but I did miss a few details in there and whatnot. There are some great videos on YouTube I highly recommend checking out. If you just search Russian sleep experiment explained, you'll find some really good stuff. I actually found a really cool animated video that went through the whole story.
Was it the infographic one?
Yes, that website is the
that
best.
one too. Yeah,
I got to give them a huge shout out. Infographic, those guys. I love their animation style. It's so simple, but very detailed, if that makes sense. A lot of like especially when they showed the gore and the people ripped apart.
Yeah.
You know, they all looked really cool. But yeah, that's the Russian sleep experiment. That's my creepy pasta. I'm gonna go have some pasta now.
Right now?
No,
I got something, and Mike has something.
No, I'm gonna hang tight. Okay. I'm gonna have pasta after the show. So yeah, who wants to run with it next? Who wants to follow that?
I'll go.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So we're talking about sleep a lot. This also has sort of the same basis. Mitch mentioned it earlier. No Sleep, which is a subreddit on reddit.com. So for those of you unaware, Reddit is a forum-based website where you can go and there's fucking comments and people make posts, and I think it is useful for a lot of things, but it is also like a terrible corner of the internet where people hide behind their anonymity and say awful things and move on.
I think that can be said about any corner of the internet too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Reddit is a place that I spend my free time when I'm on the internet looking at anything from cycling stuff, baseball stuff, movie stuff, all the way to this subreddit, which is called No Sleep. So a subreddit is just like a specific section of Reddit where people talk about very specific things. So No Sleep, according to the subreddit, is a place for authors to share their original horror stories. So what you'll get a lot of the time is people posting original horror stories, normally narrative, sort of being pitched as if they're just trying to write a scary ghost story. Instead of sitting around a campfire, people are choosing to tell these stories here. And now this post that I'm about to talk about and expand on was from 5 years ago. And it originally started, the title of the post is, "I am a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell." So they are presenting it as if it is fact, right? Now, the basis of the subreddit says they're original horror stories, but this person says, I wasn't sure where else to post these stories. I figured I'd share them here. I've been a search and rescue officer for a few years now, and along the ways, I've seen some things that, might creep people out and that you might be interested in. So you sort of have this shorter bullet point list of a few stories that, I went out and I tried to find someone and I saw something and it had a weird face, maybe alluding to Slenderman or something like that. But sort of the last story that they go to tell is the one that I'm going to focus on here. And the way that they present this story is almost like dismissive to a fault. Like you can tell that they're sort of burying the lead with the way that they present this story. And they're like, well, this is the last one I'll tell. And it's probably the weirdest one I have. And so basically what they're saying is so I'll just go on. I'll just read a couple of sentences from the beginning of this story. So now, I don't know if this is true in every search and rescue unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken regular thing we run into. You can try asking about other SAR officers, but even if they know what they talk about, they probably won't say anything about it. So this whole thing that they're alluding to are these staircases in the woods. So according to this poster, they've been told not to talk about it by their superiors. They've gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. It's sort of an unwritten rule of these search and rescue teams that are basically present in national parks because people go missing all the time. They leave on a hike, they're unprepared, they go missing, and I think most of the time maybe they lost their direction, or unfortunately, maybe a mountain lion gets them or something. But these sort of stories are more based in spooky, Beastie Boys type of scenarios, right? So
when you say stairs in the woods, do you mean like rocks that have been aligned for you to walk up the hill, or?
So
Yeah.
no, not rocks that have been aligned up on the hill, but actually built staircases. So very far, according to the poster, very far into the wilderness, like 30 to 40 miles. All of a sudden, they'll come across a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's like you took stairs from like the inside of your house and you cut them out and you just placed them in the forest, right? So you're seeing anything. The stories that have been told are showing like wooden staircases, carpeted staircases, some stone staircases. But I think a lot of the stories, in order to sound a little bit creepier, are ones that seem like they're right out of your house. So not necessarily like an antique house with stone steps, but like, you know, there's this one story of just a staircase with white carpeting, clean white carpeting that hasn't been damaged by the woods or anything,
Weird.
right? So according to the search and rescue officer, you know, the first time he saw them, he asks about them, and they're very hush-hush about it. They say, don't worry about it. This is normal. Everyone else has claimed to have said the same thing, but they don't talk about it. So that's sort of the end of this person's post on Reddit. And the post absolutely blows up. People ask them tons of questions. You know, the staircase thing being like the top most upvoted question on this thread. That's how Reddit works, right? You upvote or you downvote things. Things that are upvoted sort of rise to the top, and those are the things that see the most light. So, according to the questions that are asked here, the person says, you know, I want to know more about these staircases. Actually, a second post happens. He just calls it part 2, but basically he's like, I'm going to expand on the staircases. People had a lot of stories about the staircases. And so what happens here is all these people sort of come out of the woodwork and tell their own staircase stories. Oh, I saw a staircase that had just white carpeting, or I saw a staircase and I tried to go up it, but when I got close to it, I had this feeling inside of me that like drove me to not go up the stairs and actually drove me to run in the opposite direction. And so, you know, there's never any evidence of other structures nearby. According to some stories, some of these stairs are actually placed upside down. Most of them look brand new, but some of them look old and decrepit. Usually in these stories, they're relatively clean, right? No dirt and debris, and there's no traces of animals on the stairs or anything. Like I said earlier, 25 or so miles into the forest, far away from evidence of civilization. And a few people have told stories about going up these stairs. And so what happens when they go up the stairs, they sort of will hear like white noise in their ears. They're not really hearing anything else. And it almost seems like you're traveling to like another dimension of sorts, right? So many people have the urge to flee, but some people have climbed up these stairs, and what they do is like they go up there and they can't necessarily even like describe what they are feeling. So there's all these stories come out, and people are like, "Oh, I saw stairs in the woods, and this is what happened." And it just seems like this sort of what we mentioned earlier, this like game of telephone where everyone's like, "Oh, let me be involved, let me be involved," and then it just leads to a bunch of speculation. And what happens is people are like, "Oh, maybe at the top of the stairs it's a portal to another dimension, or it's a portal to hell, or
maybe it's a stairway to heaven."
A stairway to heaven, exactly. That's what that in the middle of the woods is when that riff was originally written.
Yeah.
And some people say that it's like they're stairs that are that's all these people are going missing because some sort of paranormal, whether say maybe it's aliens, extraterrestrials, are setting up these portals in the middle of the woods. At the top of the stairs are where these portals reside. They're coming through the portals. They're walking down the stairs. They're kidnapping these people. And then they're going back up the stairs and they're leaving. And so that's where all of these missing person cases, that's sort of a reason for all of these missing person cases out in the middle of the woods. And so, you know, like living in New England, I've seen old houses in the middle of the woods, you know, whether it be like old mining town that it doesn't like, you know, people have moved out years ago, or even like in some of the state parks down here. Like there's this one called Arcadia, which used to have a lot more houses in it, but sort of the government, like the state government bought up all the land to make it a sanctioned park. And so those people were forced to move out. So, you know, maybe the stairs were built a little bit better than the rest of the house. The house tumbles over and the stairs are still standing. what I think is like 9 times out of 10 is these stories are made up. You know,
Yes.
someone just wants to have in on the fun. They say, "Oh, I was out hiking," and it is just like a conduit for some creative writing. You know, like I'm going to write my own little story. I might not be able to pitch it to a big movie studio to make a movie, or maybe I don't have the means to make a little short film about it myself, but I want to get some upvotes on Reddit because everyone loves that karma. Everyone's a karma whore on Reddit.
They want that
And
Reddit gold, you know?
Yeah, they want that gold, baby, so you can be passing out gold and the dumb silver and all. There's like a million
Yep.
awards on Reddit
And it's
now.
so valuable. It's
That way you
It's
can
so
edit your
valuable.
post and say, thanks for the gold, kind stranger.
And so I think that's sort of how it like that's like where the internet comes in, because it's that sort of anonymity that I was talking about before, where you can just come onto this forum, make up a username, post about it. Oh, I'm a search and rescue officer. I see these stairs in the woods all the time, and it is like a creative writing class.
Yeah.
That's how I've sort of come to terms with it over the course of like the 5 years of doing research. Now, I remember seeing this post 5 years ago, being on Reddit, and like literally the sort of the thing with no sleep is like these are stories that keep you up at night, like if you're staring at your phone before you go to bed.
Yeah, hence
I
the
remember
name.
reading this for like an hour or two in bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not going to sleep because it was so interesting, so enthralling. We'll post the links in our show notes too with the videos that Jarvis was talking about earlier.
Hell yeah.
Whether or not they're real, they're really well written stories.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it sort of is parallel with some of the David Paulides stuff that we talked about in Missing 411. A lot of those sort of missing people stories.
Yeah.
Human interest really interests people in general, so I think they want us. Some of it is based in reality, right? You've walked in the woods before.
Yep.
You can imagine what a staircase, something that you know, looks like in the middle of the woods,
Yeah.
and why that would be creepy. Let your imagination run wild, and thank the internet for it. So yeah, those are the staircases in the woods, and the sort of research I'm putting in quotes. You know, basically just all of these firsthand accounts of people seeing staircases. Any of you guys ever seen staircases in the woods?
So
I have not.
I have, and I don't remember where I saw it, but I want to put an asterisk next to it because the way I'm picturing them in this story is that they're not like in the ground, right? These aren't staircases in the ground. They're like above the ground and like lead somewhere above the ground, correct?
They're just freestanding and they lead up into the like up towards the trees.
Yeah, because one time, I don't remember where I was, but I remember walking on a trail and there were like these stone stairs that were probably like, you know, a few yards out off the trail leading up into the woods. And they were in the ground though. They weren't like suspended above the ground.
It's
but
probably just like the Boy Scouts.
yeah,
Honestly.
I
It's
just
like an
remember
Eagle
thinking
Scout
it was
thing.
weird. I just remember thinking it was weird because it's like there's no trail over there. Why the hell is that even over there? But it could have been a trail at one point. So
Sure.
maybe that's why they were there. So
Steps to an old mill on the side
yes,
of a river or something.
Exactly. So I want to
It
put an
seems much more
asterisk next to
likely.
my sighting.
Yeah.
I'm not a woodsman, so I haven't run into any of that stuff. I was an indoor kid growing up, so I didn't see any stairs when I was growing up. Unfortunately, I did see Hell's Gate, but that's a little bit different.
So yeah, that's about it for me. The staircases, the no sleep subreddit. It's got a lot of cool, sort of interesting, creepy stories. And if you're savvy enough to avoid the bad shit on Reddit, I do think there's
Yeah.
a lot of fun, interesting things and informational things that can be
Yeah.
found on that website. If you,
I think
never used it.
another good one we haven't mentioned is writing prompts. That subreddit is really
Yeah.
cool. If you want to get into
Which-
like seeing people write really cool stories, they'll start.
no sleep is just creepy writing prompts.
Exactly.
basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's
So
it-
writing prompts is like, hey, a superhero, like write something about a superhero. or
Yeah,
something,
like if
and
you
people
had
sort of
magic
critique it.
Yeah, if you had magic powers for one day, what would they be? And then people just go
You write a
ham.
little story, and there's like a back and forth
Yeah.
with all the users.
It's fun.
Yeah, no sleep is a lot like that, where it's just like, okay, here's a ghost story. We don't have a campfire. We have the internet.
Yeah.
So
We have the glow of
Yeah.
your phone in your face.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
campfire.
Oh, I like that.
Cool. All right, Mike, what do you have for us? You've been awfully quiet
Yeah.
lately. What do you got,
So,
sir?
this technically fills all the criteria of being an internet urban legend, but I believe in my heart and soul that it is true. Jar Jar Binks was originally intended to be a Sith Lord.
Yes.
Now, the
sign,
reason-
sign me up, baby.
I'm in, 100%.
This came
I
out,
believe
first
this
saw
urban
this
legend for a
on
fact.
YouTube years ago. Now, the reason is there's footage of George Lucas in a behind-the-scenes video talking to his staff with Dave fucking Filoni in the room, so you know this is real. And he refers to Jar Jar as being the key to all of this. The entire movie of The Phantom Menace. Jar Jar is the key. So why would you jump to being a Sith Lord? Well, there are many reasons, my friends. The first of all, in the Battle of Gunga, down in Naboo, where they're all fighting with the droid army, Jar Jar's fighting moves very, very closely resemble drunken boxing, a form of wushu. And you can go frame by frame and watch him compared with somebody performing wushu. And they are mapped. And you don't fuck around with very expensive, especially in the 90s, CGI. So everything that Jar Jar did was super intentional and probably approved or commanded by George Lucas himself. Second, this motherfucker gives Palpatine the Senate, right?
Yep.
So we know Palpatine's Sith, and like, oh, well, maybe Jar Jar's just an idiot. Well, that's what they want you to believe. You know who else is an idiot? Yoda, the first time we see him. When
Very
Luke
true.
lands on that planet and he gets to go train with the Jedi Master, the creature that he meets hits him on the head, hits the droid on the head with a stick, and he's acted stupid, and that ends up being one of the wisest, most powerful Jedis that you ever get to see in any of the movies. Right?
Yep.
So what George is going to do is he's going to mirror this. And he's going to introduce this character that seems slapsticky, over-the-top slapsticky for the entire movie.
Borderline
now,
racist,
He's a Gungan.
too.
Yeah, well, we'll go into that another show. He's a Gungan who's not really accepted by the rest of his planet, right? So they're all uncomfortable for some reason. If you slow it down, you look at his eyes are more like vertical slit and reddish than any other of his
Species.
ilk.
The rest of the
Yeah,
Gungan,
yeah.
right?
He's doing force flips. One of the first things we see him do is like a triple backflip from standing on the ground into the water, right?
A Jedi
In the
technique, for sure.
Battle of Naboo, he does some wild, like, parkour wall scaling to get down to the second floor and drop in like a superhero type stance next to the rest of the Jedi. Right?
Yep.
This is crazy.
He does.
So these are all the things that are like lining up to make this set up for this huge reveal either in the second or the third prequel, which is going to blow everybody's minds because now you're a kid and you're holding your Jar Jar toy and this silly guy and then he cut someone's arm off. Probably would have happened. Maybe he was going to cut Dooku's head off because there's only supposed to be two. Who knows?
Right.
But in 2015, Ahmed Best, the dude who played Jar Jar,
Right.
tweets, I will say this, it feels really good when the hidden meaning behind the work is seen, no matter how long it takes. Hashtag TPM. Jar Jar was gonna be a Sith, but like every other fanboy who was a little too old and went into those prequels expecting to see the movie that they saw as a 10-year-old, and that doesn't work out, they just start spitting hate on the internet. George Lucas looks at his giant pile of money and says, I can't swim in it if it gets any smaller. And he rewrites his whole plan, and then we get the dumb Jar Jar, and that's what happens. Because if anything, Star Wars is excellent at turning hate into money.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah. So take that, Episode 7. You guys thought we couldn't top it? Well, there it is.
I would have taken that
The
storyline.
new number one.
I would have taken that
You're gonna go back,
storyline.
you're going to listen to Episode 7 now, and you're going to be like, this is garbage. This is hot garbage. We thought we had gold, but look, it has turned into an illusion. This Episode 12 is the best.
The Beastie Boys Awaken is what we should have called it.
Ooh. Awakened, huh?
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Stay woke.
Of all the things we talked about, that one is the one that I feel the strongest about.
Yeah. I feel like that would have been a way better movie, too.
Stronger than you felt in our Episode 7?
Stronger than I felt in our Episode 7. Yeah, I know I had a lot of strong feelings in that episode.
Yeah.
I might have even I probably crossed the line. But
Yeah.
I already apologized to you guys for that.
Yeah, no,
So we
it's
don't have
good.
to
Has anybody
relitigate.
said anything?
I feel-
we fought about editing it,
Yeah.
and has anybody said anything about some of the shit that you said? Like especially,
I
dude, I
really-
can't believe you left.
I mean, honestly, if you guys want to talk about it like after we're done recording or whatever, I'd be happy to do that. But I just think like going over it again here seems like
I feel like awaken is a great term for that episode.
All right,
well,
I
guys,
guess.
thank you so much. I mean, this was a lot of fun. Internet urban legends, Slenderman himself. You know,
Not to be mistaken with
unfortunately,
Thickman.
Don't forget about being first with Thickman. Right. That's his name at the strip club.
Yeah.
And when he takes his suit off.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank
When
you,
say
everybody. We
Thickman,
love you
all I
all.
picture is like Danny DeVito.
Decaf left, regular right. Decaf left, regular right. It's very challenging work.